victims' rights are incredibly important. And, as we keep talking about criminal justice reform, one of the things that we leave out is criminal justice reform for our victims. And it's an incredibly important component. We've now had this vernacular surrounding victim abuse, domestic violence, and we've now have a generation of girls and young boys that understand the concept around domestic violence, yet we haven't changed the framework in which those victims operate. So while we have educated our young, and our young are now starting to recognize and move towards stopping that cycle of violence, we're not giving them a framework in which to operate to ensure that their rights are recognized and in fact the violence is stopped. So we're really working in an antiquated system for our victims. So an amendment that would allow victims' rights is actually just acknowledging our current context in which we operate. Yes, we've worked hard for domestic violence victims. Now it's time to provide them with the framework in which they can exercise those rights. Why do we have the criminal justice system? Why do we have a system? It's for the victims. And if we can't allow them to have the voice that they need to come forward, we're putting our head in the sand, right? So who is the system for? Is it for the system or is it for our victims? And certainly victims' rights are an important component of that. So what Marsys Law would do is just give that level playing field. Yes, the investigator needs to notify the victim. Yes, the prosecutor needs to be accountable to the victim, and there's no accountability. This is something that is not partisan. All of us know someone who's been victimized at one point in time. I can't imagine a person who doesn't. And for some of it's more personal than to others, but certainly we are all aware that domestic violence lives in our communities, in our neighborhoods, in our state, and we need to stop the cycle of violence, and we have the opportunity, it's in our hands, to just start that conversation in a different way that we've never had it before. And that's by starting with leveling the playing field to allow victims to have voice and to gain that accountability to our prosecutorial units. I can tell you as a former prosecutor and former judge that victims deserve equal rights. Support Marsys Law.